Well, hello, everybody. How are you doing? Becky Raney here, and I'm delighted to be with you today to talk to you about day three with the 90-day duplication challenge. And today we're going to talk about your stories grow you. And what do I mean by that? Yeah, it's kind of complicated, right? When we think about the Bible, for example. What is the Bible? The Bible is full of all different kinds of stories. And, I know some friends who have traveled to Israel and different areas of where the passage of Jesus' stories and all these, the Bible is just a compilation, all these different stories. And you may not really necessarily remember all the details, but you remember the reason behind the story or the different significant parts of the story. And so when you relate that to your doTERRA business and you're doing a class, you want to really recognize that in the very beginning of your class that if you don't have a story, people will stop listening because they can't be related to you. They just are in a selling conversation. So always start out with your class with your story. And if you don't have a story, like maybe you just started the oils and you haven't had an experience, you're always welcome to actually share this, stories of your upline or a crossline people that you remember and understand. And it could be even a story that's not related to the oils. It could be a story of maybe your grandma passing and you weren't able to help her, or, different people in the family who or deal with depression and you want to be able to help them. There's tons and tons of ways that you can work with stories. And so that's what this is about today is that I want to talk to you about you all have your why. Now your why is something that's why am I doing doTERRA? Why, I have a dream that I want to travel the world or I want to really put the oils in every home and make a huge impact. And all these are really great whys. But your story is like the stair step that helps you get to your why. And you can have many of them. So the more stories you have, the more relatable you can be to other people during your classes or during your conversations with people to invite them to a class or during the enrollment process. So in all phases of planning, doing, and reviewing, in all stages of preparing, inviting, presenting, enrolling, or inspiring, and then following up, mentoring, you're going to want to have different kinds of stories. Now, some people, like when you have a Christmas party or a birthday party and all the family comes and all the usual suspects that you have in your life come and we're sitting back and they all tell the same story that you've heard for 10 years, about this or that, or how this person, had this happen in their life. And you can roll your eyes and almost say the story word for word because you've heard it for so many years. And, this is important to understand that it's really good to have a story that people can relate to and understand. But you also want to be mindful about who your audience is and who you're talking to. So, pulling out and understanding what the different stories are that surround you, you want to keep track. You want to do a diary, keep track of maybe like how did that story land? Was it a good one to use in this situation? Was this a story that has all the elements that really help people relate to that? And what I mean by elements is that you want to introduce yourself, you want to point out what was the pain point, what was wrong. You want to point out what happened, what was the insert of a, a moment of where they made a change and what happened in their life to then what is now, what is happening now. And a story could be very short, a minute long or 10 minutes long or an hour long. Well, you don't want to do an hour long in a class, but you get my point, right? That you can speak into the listening of who your audience is. So, a lot of times when you're doing your presentations, you want to ask questions and kind of get a feel of what's going on in the audience. Um, and I think it's really important to do that because you can get a sense of where they're at in their mind, if they're following along, if they're disengaged, if they have questions that you're not answering or just confusing them more. So it's really important to be able to make sure that you know what's happening and how the story is landing, and then you can alter it, of course, being truthful, but to the listening and answering those questions that people may have. So the point, you want to make sure that when you follow up or when you sit down and evaluate how the class went and how the story went, you want to look at the data. Like, what was the percentage of enrollments? Like, if you're not keeping track of this, then you're not going to be as effective, right? So, being able to, every time you're doing a class, you want to review afterwards. Maybe you have a downline member with you that hosted the class, and after all the guests leave, you're going to sit with them and go, "Well, how did that go? What landed? What didn't land?" And you want to use this as a positive experience. Don't take anything negative. Now, if you're a leader and you take it negative, then you're never going to grow. Remember, we're looking at duplicating. So if you ask the downline person that hosted the class and say, "Hey, how did this go? What could I have done different? What did you think?" Um, and then be able to then help them see how they can be very effective when they're teaching the class when they grow. That is so important. Ask them what story worked for them. What did people really engage and like? What kind of stories do they have, or what did they get from that experience? Now, you may not love your story, that's okay, but it may hit and land really well. The more you tell your story, the better polished it will get. So, basically, I'm just reviewing my notes to make sure I get everything here for you, but, um, yeah, basically just have a book to document all the stories, and then, I wanna hit another point here. The stories, like in the Bible, they're something that you can build the rapport with people. People can relate to it. So think about what relatable elements are in your story, and then pull those out and ask people. Like something like, I'm a parent and I have a parent of 3 kids and I have a son, and the son, when they reach 12 years old, does anybody have any sons that read have are 12 years old? Like that. So you want to bring that into them, bring the audience into the story. Um, and then, you can get them to laugh and really help them understand what you're trying to say. Um, when you've had this a story for a long time, you want to make sure that you can have new stories. Don't always think that your story is what's selling. You want to keep moving and changing your stories, adding more stories, other people's stories. And if you can do a presentation where you have the more stories in there, it's the stories that sell, not the data that you're talking about. People remember those stories. So when you're doing the class, you talk about the essential oils penetrate the cell wall, and the oils come from the bark and the root. We know this because we said it a million times, but people are just going to go, "Oh, yeah, okay, I get that." And then, but when you tell a story about how it related to them and their family, their 12-year-old son had um, athlete's foot or something, and they just use these oils and da da, da, and people go, "My husband's got an athlete's foot," or yeah, I've got that issue going on in my life. And so people can actually connect with you at a whole nother level. And so the reason why I'm telling you these about stories is that you've may, and we're in the duplication part, is you may have already enrolled this person, and that you're solidifying and creating deeper levels of belief within your team. And so when I come to India, or when I come to your house and I teach a class, and you may have heard my story, and if I only just tell that one story, but I add more stories through the whole class, maybe people who already signed up brought guests to that, they're getting a deeper level of understanding. And that is so important to layer and level, layer a bunch of stories on there. Have people step up and talk about a testimonial. Maybe there's some things that people can talk about that they learned where they had experienced in using the oils. That's really great because then it's not always coming from you, right? So there's this documentary that's on TV and it's called 1 Mile More. 1 Mile More. And what it is, it's this group of people that it's a mile long. And so basically, the goal in the game is that everybody, you have to do this mile in 20 minutes. You can walk it, jog it, whatever. But so you do this mile, 20 minutes, everybody stops. Maybe they're done before the 20 minutes. And if they're not done before the 20 minutes, they're out of the game. Okay, so off those one go that didn't finish the mile in 20 minutes. And then, right at the 20-minute mark, you start again. You do another mile. And if you didn't finish it in 20 minutes, then you're out of the game. And then after 20 minutes, then you start the next mile. So you want to finish before the 20 minutes. So you have a few minutes to rest. How crazy does that sound, right? But it does work. So you do, and rest, and then, oh, back at do, rest. And so the more you go around and around, the less more people drop off. And why is it that they're dropping off? Well, they have all these excuses in their head. An excuse could be, oh, I've got a blister on my feet, or I've got a sciatic, or I'm just done. This is stupid. Or, whatever people say that excuse them from the game. And I just want to point that out to you that doTERRA network marketing, it's all a game. And the game is you want to win by making money and living your dreams. And if you think about it, all the negative sayings that you have that have, oh, I've got a blister, or I've got a sciatic, or oh, whatever it is that has you get out of the game, that is your truth. And are you willing to uh, throw in the towel on a blister? Are you willing to just stop? So really truly, the people who have that mindset level to keep going around and around and around and do as many um, 20-minute 1 miles as they can is incredible. This network marketing is not for everybody, but as a leader, your goal is to have people be so strong that a blister won't let them quit, that a side ache won't let them quit, because that's just peanut stuff. And I want to tell you that when I think about, um, going to someone's house and teaching a class, and I want them to have 20 people in the class, and then maybe, oh my gosh, maybe I don't want 20 people because I don't know how to teach a class in front of 20 people. And oh, I just hope it's only 3 or 4 people that show up so then I can feel more comfortable. What are you saying to yourself? And so, one of my interesting things is to be able to, I remember I was the president of Wacom Women in Business one year, and we had a banquet every year, and 300, 400 people would come to that banquet. And as president, you would be kind of like the MC, or the person who'd get up and do like a keynote speech or something like that. And I was preparing my speech, working on it, really nervous to speak in front of all those people. And the banquet was October 14th. I remember that because it's our wedding anniversary. And my dad passed away suddenly, October 4th, right before the banquet. Actually, the banquet was the 28th. So I remember it clear now. And how in the world, with the emotions and the shock of my dad passing, am I ever going to be able to stand up in front of a crowd and give a speech? Do I just let someone else do it? What are the things that I could say in my brain that check me out of the game? And there's a lot. I had, rightfully many really good, strong reasons. But I've always dreamed of being the president and being someone to talk on stage. Like, what does that look like? Do I have what it's take? I want to do that. Like for years and years and years, I saw people, the presidents get up on the stage and give this speech. And so I did it. I did. I got up, and I was, not very uh, clear with my verbiage, not very well presented, but I did. I used that as an excuse. But then I also said, but I didn't want to use it as an excuse to pull me out. Everybody loses a parent. Everybody has things that happen in their life that checks them out of their game. And are you willing to keep living your dreams and goals because you know it is your life, not the person who passed away's life. They're no longer with you. And it's up to you to actually become a strong leader and implement that strength into your downline so that they can feel comfortable standing up no matter what happens, a blister or their parent passing away, and be able to lead their team to their dreams. And so basically, what I want to say is people negotiate with themselves to check out. They won't if you can create more stories and layers of helping reach them to what they really want to believe. And I think that this is kind of a lot like ministers or priests or whatnot when they're preaching, they're telling and relating in parables and in stories to be able to connect with you. And so the more you have in your introduction and into your class, into your second enrollment, into your living, into your classes that are ongoing all the time, the more strength you're going to put in that. Um, you need to create a lot of mental toughness. And I'm going to say that everybody I know doesn't have that mental toughness. Nobody's better than you. Nobody's, some people are gifted and can do that, but you are also gifted. The only difference is that they practice theirs. So all you need to do is just keep practicing and keep doing. And it's a life journey. Do you think the president of the United States, well, that's not a good example. He doesn't do a very good job, right? When he talks. So, gosh dang, don't let that stop you. Um, it's not about your ability, it's about your decision to do it. I think that's just so powerful. It's not about your ability, it's about your decision. So when I was up there on stage crying that I just lost my dad and I can't speak, I'm just really having a hard time putting the words out, but here I am and I'm here to deliver this speech for you. People like leaned in and they wanted to support me. And I really connected more with people. So that is part of being human. And people want to do business with people they can relate to. They don't do business with you because of the product. They do business because you're relatable and that you connect with people. All you need to do is to tough up mentally and close the doors of all the justifications, of all the excuses, of all the reasons that you have, and be unreasonable and really make that work. No more taking naps, no more, I'll do it tomorrow, no more, less is okay. And, I'm planning my trip right now to India. And it's funny because I'm the kind of person that just get it done now because there might be more things that happen later that if I wait till later, then I can't get to it now, right? So do it now, not wait for later. And every day I talk to some of my leaders, I'll get it to you tomorrow. And then, okay, I'm waiting. Tomorrow's tomorrow. And then, oh, well, this happened. So I'll get it to you tomorrow. Think about how many times you have excuses in your life that actually have you not be as efficient and as moving forward as you could be because of all these excuses. And it's really prevalent all over out there. I've really noticed it in India because I get a lot of the same excuses. Oh, my son has studies tomorrow. He's got a test tomorrow. So do you do the test for your son? You know? And if you really do you need to stand there with a ruler, make sure they get it done? Maybe that's the case, but you can be mindfully studying for your stuff. What kind of a great lesson would that be for your son or your child that's going to have a test tomorrow that you're studying too, that you're studying to be the best you can be? Right? And so don't use those kinds of things as excuses with me because it just doesn't work. Um, you know, and unless you have to stand there and do the homework for them, like that's not helping them. You want to actually really think about firing your upline. I think sometimes a lot of these excuses that we have is you think there's a safety net for you. Oh, Becky will take care of it. Oh, Becky will do it for me. Or who Kaylee? Or, Cindy Brown or whoever is watching this video. We've got lots of amazing leaders that are very capable of doing the work for you. But you don't really actually get the lesson unless you do it yourself. So when we owned our print shop, we used to have a binding machine. And this binding machine, here's a really great example. It would put coils on books like this. Really cool. It was really fun how to do that. But it looks complicated. How do you do that, right? And so what we would do, and we would have a new employee come in, and I would have them stand next to me and I would show them, walking them through step by step how to do the binding. Okay, so you put the paper this way. You always want to have it towards the wall. You put it into the machine, you punch it, and you only do 3 or 4 sheets at a time, and then you lay it this way. Then you take 3 or more sheets, put it in the machine, push this button to punch it, and then each time I would go through and repeat it, I would explain, and you want to watch the side here, and then you want to make sure the holes are lining up right. You don't want to get too fast because sometimes it makes it slip and then the papers won't be nice and lined up on the edge. And so you go through and kind of keep talking as you're explaining that step. Then when you're done with that punching, then you take the coil, you throw it in there like this, and then you bind it and you push it in there and it cramps it in there, and then voila, you have a book. And then what we like to do when we box the books is we lay them down so they don't get bent. And all the little extra little helpful tips that you used are part of the story too. So like you put them down because we delivered a job one time and they all squished and they came out really wrinkly and the customer rejected the job because the books weren't really pretty. So how can we make the books nice when we package them? And so I'm telling this story so people can understand why not do that or why do this. Okay, now I'm done telling the person how to do the binding. Then I switch spots. The person, then I stand over here next to them, and then they have the next one to bind. Okay, now to teach me I want you to teach me how to bind the book. So you go through and pretend that you're teaching me. I know this feels silly, but don't do that. Just do it anyway. So walk me through like I'm brand new and you're just teaching me. Now, the person's probably going to struggle. They're going to have a lot of struggling, not do it very well, make mistakes. That's perfect, right? Because then you can help them when they're going along. Person takes the paper, they put it in the binding machine, and then they push too hard and the paper gets all wrinkly and they push the button and it's not punched right. Then I can say, well, this is what happens. See, then they can get the feel of it. Next little stack. Oh, I see what you're talking about. Next little stack, punch. Next little stack, punch. And then they can get that habit down on how that's going to go through. All the while, I'll say, okay, now why do you need to do this that way? Why do you flip it this way? Why are you putting the paper in? Why just 3 sheets? Asking them questions so they can think through what it is that needs to happen. You want to do that, even if it's just a role play of helping people learn how to teach a class. It's extraordinary. Now, in doTERRA, for helping people learn how to teach a class, we have a saying. Hi, Martha, I'm going to help you teach a class. Or would you host a class? And she goes, yeah, but I don't want to teach it. I'm like, that's okay. I will teach the first class. And then the second class we do, you can teach first part, I'll teach a second part. And then the third class we do, you'll teach all of it. Okay, so they have a set of expectations of what needs to happen for them to teach the class. So say, hey, let's do a role play. I'm going to teach it right now, and I'm going to walk you through why I say this time, why we do this way, and all that, right? And just like punching the paper in the binding machine, they go through. I teach them, then I have them teach me, and then they actually will go through and do the whole thing by themselves. Now, in the process of doing this, teaching them the class, like the first day, like even going through the sooner you teach somebody how to teach a class, the less time they have to get freaked out about it. I have leaders in India that have been with me for 3 years that have never taught a class. It's a little bit different long distance and on Zoom than it is in person. But I think it's really important. I want you to teach a class on Zoom and record it. Do several different kinds. Do a 5-minute class, a 15-minute class and then an hour-long class. Do a class on how to earn money with doTERRA. Do the introduction class. Do how to do an LRP, what an LRP is. The more kinds of recordings that you can do, it's easy to duplicate because then you can send it to your downline and say, watch this over and over again. And then so you're learning how to do it, then you teach me. Okay. And so that's just another way to duplicate yourself so that you're not teaching everybody one on one all the time on how to teach a class. So that's really a really, really important part of this duplication process. And in order for you to come out on top, you can't do it. You can't do it without having your abilities teach your downline to be better than you. You want them to be better than you. And if they become golds, you have all these golds underneath you, who do you become? Right? So this is just incredible. And there's nothing more of a joy to know how many diamonds you have, how many double presidential diamonds you'll have on your team. And but back to this whole reason why I'm talking about the duplication process of teaching a class as soon as possible with the stories in it and becoming effective is that they're not going to be stuck and you're going to be moving faster along the pathway. And part of that is they don't need you to be teaching all their classes for them because you can't be in all those spots and all those locations for all the people. So if you enrolled 20 people and they all want you to do a class on the same weekend, you can't do that. And then you wonder why your business can't grow is because you're trying to do this class for this person. Don't do that. That is not the way to do your business. Okay. And so basically, get the new person while they're excited about their dreams and really excited about the opportunity to teach that class right away. And then you're going to tell them, I want you to fire me. I want you to think about you're burning the boat. Like like you're going to burn the boat. You can't go back to the island. You're going to be on your own, right? And so you burn the boat, let go of all the expectations of how your upline is going to teach you. You may need them from time to time for questions and things like that. Great, no problem. But if you have the right mindset first and foremost, that you're going to learn how to do this business as soon as possible, you need to get all the information from your outline so you can do it effectively. You're going to learn to teach the class. You're going to do the lifestyle overview. You're going to do the mentoring. All those things are extremely important to be able to have them then teach their downline. So back to the binding. I'm teaching you how to bind the book, bind the book. Then you teach me how to bind the book. So if you can teach me, then you should be able to teach the new employee to bind books. You should be able to teach your new downline to teach classes. And then you tell them with intention that when you're done teaching this class with your host, I want you to teach them how to teach the class right away. And then you're going to plan, do, review. You're going to do the class, review how it went. And then you're teaching them the exact same thing that I just started out with, how to do the stories, how to engage people, and stories sell, not the products. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. Now, if you have any questions regarding any of this, please text down below. And I know I went a little long today. What we're going to be doing on the first week of this 90-day duplication challenge is we're going to be covering processes and systems that you're going to want to use as guides throughout this whole duplication challenge. Your goal is to duplicate yourself as many times as you can. So, anyway, ask me questions down below, like this video, share it with others because that's part of the duplication. And anyway, my name is Becky Raney, and all in on oils, everybody. So we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.